Hello, my fireflies, and welcome back to the TheCyanFirefly. It's me, Lyiat.
And Azilie.
And we're back with yet another one of our wonderful, wonderful Sunday sit-downs that nobody cares about.
Oh, yes, yes. We just enjoy wasting our time for the benefit of no one.
Well, we have been getting more viewers lately, which is pretty cool. We're up to, last I checked, 218 subscribers.
Yeah, slowly climbing, slowly climbing.
It's not the most we've ever had, but it is a significant boon.
Most definitely.
Pretty fun, pretty fun. Exciting things coming up in the future. Extremely exciting things coming up in the future. I can't say too much
because I'll kill you if you do.
Azilie would indeed strangle me if I talked, but we have secured a particular asset that you will all be very interested in. And it will be, hopefully, in the upcoming Sunday sit-down. Can't be with this one because there were certain issues with getting that whole thing to work, but next one, very good chance.
And we're definitely crossing our fingers for it. It's looking to be very cool. You all gonna very much enjoy it. Hopefully as soon as it pans out. So.
Yes, we will not give you any hints, however, because again, Azilie would brain me.
With a clue by 4!
With a clue by 4?
Yes.
What's a clue by 4?
I'll let your imagination run with that one.
What is wrong with you?
Everything and nothing! You should know this by now!
Oh dear. Anyway. So, the footage in the background is, of course, Guild Wars 2 again.
Of course.
Yes, that is the game that has been the focus of my life lately.
It's sucking up your soul.
Productivity.
Lyiat, stop it. Lyiat, stop!
Productivity is at an all-time low for me, to be honest. But
still working on getting some of those Greenlight games going.
Well, yes. Thankfully, Air Buccaneers has been very grateful. Ludocraft, I should say, not Air Buccaneers.
Yes, but Ludocraft is... I was actually quite surprised by their reaction to the videos. A very satisfactory surprise.
Yes, for those who are not aware, Ludocraft actually posted our video all over their website. They posted it
their
on
Facebook
their
and their Twitter.
Google Plus, which is something I don't personally use, but they posted it there too.
It was very... I was very impressed with the fact that we got that much of an opportunity. It's always impressive to have a developer comment positively on something that you've done and then continue to share it. There's something wholly fulfilling about seeing that happen.
Yes, and I was a little critical for, like, instance, their sword mechanics and their graphical fidelity, even though it was kind of an alpha game. But what it comes down to is that if nobody tells them that this stuff is a potential problem, they might not ever fix it.
Right, and from what it seems like, in the emails that they were sending back and forth, that they're looking into...
when it comes to the graphics, they're going to work on the textures. They weren't offended at all, which is...
No, which is always a plus,
yes.
Because you're giving them honest feedback that could help improve the quality of their material. And the fact that they're saying, thank you, this is what we need, and not going apeshit.
Yes, but, what was I going to say? I had my first heckler over that video. The first time I've actually ever had a heckler, and ironically it wasn't on any of the videos. If you check them, there's no deleted comments or anything like that. I decided to sign on to Air Buccaneers to play it for a little while after I had made the video and after they had posted links all over their stuff. And I had hoped, maybe run into the developer or run into one of the guys I played with a couple of times. But instead, I ran into this one random guy. I'm not going to say his name because that would kind of be rude.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want people to go out of their way to heckle him. And let's just face it, I'm not really a tattletale. No. But the guy asked me if I was the one whose videos were all over the front page. And I said, yeah, those were my videos. And I had quite a bit of fun making them. And then he proceeded to tell me how uninformed I was about the game because it was an alpha title and I shouldn't be remarking about its graphics whatsoever, and blah, blah, blah. Which I just immediately replied, "Who the hell are you?" And I proceeded to shoot his airship out of the sky.
Take that, heckler! Bum, bum, bum.
It was just like, dude,
Clearly,
I'm
you're
media.
informed enough that the developers are saying, "Thank you, this is what we need," and posting it everywhere. Clearly, that is exactly what the developers are happy about. They're more informed than you! Come on!
Yeah, apparently the developers do believe that I have a very informed opinion, so...
Exactly. Thank you for nothing,
They wouldn't have reposted my video everywhere if they didn't think that the video was informed and up to date. Oh, well.
Doing research and backing up facts. We do it, you didn't!
And you know what? It was just a matter-of-fact, honest opinion. Those particular textures I thought needed some work, and the developer does agree, and they're going to be worked on. Bish bash bosh, no problem.
Yeah. Some people just like to start trouble over nothing. That's really what it comes down to. And
oh, well.
It happens in every fandom. If somebody likes something and you don't agree with the standing opinion of a series or game or television dramatization, whatever.
It's the internet.
It goes beyond internet.
It's the internet. People are willing to insult the hell out of somebody on the internet where they wouldn't do it in real life.
Actually, I've come across a lot of people that will willingly do it in real life.
Yes, but I don't honestly
have a differing opinion.
I don't honestly think that guy in real life would come up to me and start causing trouble. It's kind of like how major YouTube celebrities don't run into, like, haters at conventions and stuff like that. Because they know it just wouldn't end well for them. But,
one would like to hope.
Well, before we go on to our main topic, like I said before, we really should talk about Guild Wars for a little bit, just because we are using the footage. So, what have you been doing in Guild Wars lately?
Mostly it's just been trying to level.
Any interesting events?
Not particularly. I'm trying to work up to get into the next section of my character's personal story, and I attempted to travel through the terrain that instance was held in, and got my ass handed to me for like an hour, going, okay, yes, I need to get out of here and level.
Blood Tide, wasn't it?
Oh, like Blood Tide Coast, yes. I'm like, oh my god. 45 to like 55, and I'm like, oh, I can do that. I can just run through it.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Blood
35 level, no.
Blood Tide Coast is an area that is, what is it, level 45 to 55?
Yeah.
Yeah, and...
I was like...
Her character's personal quest has a quest. Her character's personal quest is set there, and it's a level 36. Yeah, a level 39 instance.
In a 45 to 55 instance zone. Like,
whose bright idea was that? So, a lot of people end up getting slaughtered trying to continue their personal quest while marching through there. It's a little bit unfortunate.
I think that happens a lot, and I'll be perfectly honest, I've done this more than once. I'm so excited about getting to the next section of the personal quest that I don't look at the map level rating.
Well, I haven't run into too many areas myself that, like, they stuck me in an area with a low-level personal quest but a high-level local area. I've never been put into an area that was higher, that the local quest was right for my level, but the area it was set in was higher for my level. Yeah. Typically, it's the other way around.
Typically, yes.
It's a high-level personal quest in a low-level area.
Yeah. Yeah, you learn to deal with it. I'm like, okay. So, I've been... I don't want to use the term grinding, but I've been leveling as much as I can. All the same, it's fun. I'm getting a freaking blast out of it.
I personally have gone through a couple of interesting world events. I fought a pretty powerful crate witch that decided to hurl me off a ledge a couple of times. That was fun.
Learn to fly, biatch!
I've recently decided to switch to double daggers for my elementalist, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, you've been saying a lot that you prefer that particular build over any others.
It's not so much that I prefer it, it's more that I realize that I've made my character very much into a my dog's barking. I've very much made my character into a DPS. I've focused a lot in power and precision. Yeah. And double daggers is kind of really the way you want to go with an elementalist if you're doing high power and high precision. Whereas if you want to stick with staff, which is what I've been using, you really want to focus on condition damage and healing, because that's more of a support weapon.
Right, which makes sense.
Yes. But the final thing I think I've done, which was today, actually, is I fought this creature called the Mega Destroyer, which was pretty fun. I fully recorded it. It might not make to this video. It might make to the next video, but we'll see. I also did a lot of World v. World with one of our guild members. That was horrendously fun.
Yes, that has...
Expensive, but horrendously fun.
I want to do the World v. World. Unfortunately, I keep getting to the point where I want to enter the instance, and it's chocked full, so I can't enter the instance with everybody else. So I'm like, damn it!
Yes, those servers, unfortunately, do have population limits.
Yes, unfortunately. Another issue that we keep seeming to run into is related to the dungeons.
Oh, yes.
I'm not sure if anybody else has been having this issue, but I know that we've been definitely having it, and it's frustrating.
For some reason, it's very hard for us to actually get a group together. Well, it's not hard for us to get a group together. Let me rearrange my words. It's not hard for us to get a group together. Once we get that group together, and we walk into the dungeon, for some reason, we're always put into separate instances of that dungeon. It'll be me in one, somebody in another, and none of us will be together. We'll fight for it like a half an hour. We got it to work once with Azilie Catacombs, but we have never gotten it to work again.
I've been hearing a lot of things that a lot of people are having this issue as well. It seems that even logging out actually isn't fixing the problem because the servers are still recognizing...
you tried that and it didn't work.
Well, the servers are, from my understanding of reading some of the forum posts, the servers are still recognizing our characters as being logged into those individual instances, which means we can't re-enter a new instance. So that's, I believe that's part of the problem.
I have no idea. All I know is that it's a big pain in the butt, and ArenaNet should fix it because... yeah. I've only managed to finish Azilie Catacombs. You haven't even gotten that far.
No, and unfortunately, Azilie Catacombs is becoming one of the next big steps in personal story. I have to meet...
well, no, it's not actually a big step in personal story. It's optional. You do not have to do it.
Right, but see, I want to get the full experience, so yes. to me, that kind of thing is a required thing to get that full experience going, and I'm like, I really want to do this, but we're just having so much trouble, and I don't want to do it alone because I'm gonna get my ass kicked.
Well, you can't do it alone, especially Azilie Catacombs. Yeah. Azilie Catacombs is pretty much considered the hardest bloody dungeon in the entire game. No, it's just like flat out whoa! It's just flat out unfair. I almost knocked the mic off the desk.
Congratulations! Oh, jeez. All problems aside, Guild Wars is very much an enjoyable experience. Yes. I'm glad I spent the money on it.
Yes, I'm very much looking forward to what we do next. Anyway, on to our major topic for this week. It's going to be an interesting one.
Yes.
Now, we've been reading a couple of news articles lately because we've been, kind of paying attention to other aspects of gaming media, which kind of means that we have to pay attention to mainstream media.
Correct. As much as I loathe to listen to the news.
Yes. Now, every once in a while, mainstream media picks up a story. Sometimes these are stories that are completely unrelated to video games, but they tie them into video games anyway and paint them into a bad light. Now, this is something that we would like to discuss today, because I read a particularly nasty article by The Mirror News. Now, I'm aware that some of our US audience will not know who The Mirror is, but our UK audience will.
Yes.
Now, The Mirror is, from what I understand, I only know so much about it, and I'm pretty sure Kazdoin will correct me on any mistakes I make, because you're absolutely lovely at that, Kazdoin. But anyway, The Mirror is it's a conservative UK paper. They also have an online branch, and this particular article came from their online branch. Now, there was an instance where a young boy, unfortunately, committed suicide. which, that's very sad on its own.
Yes.
And I fully acknowledge that. I'm not remarking anything on that. I'm not actually remarking on the kid's actions or all of that stuff. But this kid committed suicide. He hung himself. And it was a result of him having a argument with his parents. And I believe his parents restricted him from being able to see his girlfriend. Like, they said they had to break up or something like that. I'm not entirely sure about that.
Now, keep in mind, this is a 14-year-old boy. Said girlfriend was
14, 16?
14.
Okay.
14-year-old, maybe 16. 14 to 16, but the girlfriend was 13 years old, and his parents were saying, you need to stop seeing her.
Yes. And that's ultimately the gist of it. The boy became so distraught he ended up hanging himself.
Right. However,
the coroner just so happened to know that this child played Call of Duty. And somehow got to the logical conclusion that this kid hung himself because he played Call of Duty.
Specifically because he saw there was a scene in Call of Duty resulting from a hanging.
I don't even know if the coroner knew that.
I don't think the coroner did, but the Mirror most definitely painted clear referencing.
Well, simply because the coroner happened to mention video games, the Mirror went off on a full separate tangent about how video games are bad in this child, and kind of blamed this child's suicide on video games, even though this situation had nothing to do with a child playing video games or any other sort of thing.
For that matter, the kid's parents were adamant that he hadn't been playing video games that day. He'd been on YouTube and Facebook.
So,
not playing any games of any sort.
So they just went on and on and on, and attached everything directly to video games, even though video games weren't even an aspect here. The kid just happened to play video games as a matter of pastime. This is like the effect of somebody, like some murderer going out and killing somebody, and, oh, he just so happens to read Stephen King. Stephen King must cause people to murder people. What the hell? Like, what kind of diseased mind has to make the connections there to use that leap in logic?
There aren't words. There really aren't.
Now, I have nothing against the conservatives. I have a couple of conservative friends. I know somebody who is a proud member of the Republican Party. I have no problem with that. But most of these sensationalist media stories that are at least against video games. I'm aware that the liberals also have their own sensationalist stories. But when it comes to anti-video game propaganda, it generally comes from conservative media. And there are other examples of this occurring. And we did mention this before, but Fox News.
Fox News has a habit of doing this a lot, and a lot of people will remember this one. The Mass Effect alien sex scene. They had a full-blown, 15, 20-minute interview with two different people that hadn't played the game, and one person that was, I believe he was part of the development team that went there to defend...
I don't remember. This was a while back.
It was a while back, but he went there to defend the game, and I remember reading a secondary article related to this, but when that guy went in to defend the game, one of the other news anchors said, "You're here to defend this. I feel sorry for you. Best of luck." That doesn't paint a good picture.
Yeah.
More so,
and I think I know which reporter you're referring to, because he's actually not even there anymore, because he feels so alienated by his own party in the way that they act there. It's an extremely hostile environment at Fox News for anybody who has a dissenting opinion.
Right. But a lot of people remember this. It came out the same... When Mass Effect was finally released to the public, this was a few weeks later that this all came out. Fox News claimed that Mass Effect was a detrimental game to children. It exposed them to full graphic nudity. It forced the player to engage in graphic romances, including homosexual romantic relationships.
Which, at the time, it's debatable whether or not you could consider that a homosexual relationship.
Well, that's splitting hairs.
That's an exploration into a sorry biology that I'm pretty sure Fox News will not even acknowledge, but
Yeah. Well, again, it comes back to the fact that the people that were arguing that the game was harmful to children, despite the fact that the rating on it was rated M, mature, and these games weren't being directed towards children, these newscasters had never played the game and outright refused to.
Yeah.
When the gentleman that had been defending the game asked, "Have you ever played it?" one of the women point blank said, "No, and I never will." And it comes out that
so you want to come out and have
asked,
you want to come out and have an objective opinion. You want to go and slander something when you've never even consumed that media. You have no idea what's actually there.
Well, what makes it worse is she asked somebody what the game was about, and he gave her, and that person answered with a 5-minute explanation that didn't even cover any important aspect of the game. The guy gave her a 5-10 minute summary, and she went in based off of that. She did absolutely no research on this game whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I kind of hate to use this reference because some people will probably disagree with me on this, but it's kind of like people who bash the Twilight books. Now, the Twilight books are bad. Don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of people who mindlessly bash them without ever having consumed the Twilight books or watched any of the movies. They're just kind of mindlessly repeating what other people have said. Yes.
Now, I read all of the Twilight books, and I've seen the first movie. I can say...
You've done more than I have.
I can say with perfect clarity that the series is horrible.
Yes.
There are so many subtextual themes
but the difference
that just
between
makes
you
want
and
to
other
go,
people is that you speak from an authoritative standpoint. You actually know what you're talking about. These
right.
people just heard that their best friend read a page of it, or they heard a couple of jokes on the schoolyard and they're just mindlessly repeating them. You cannot speak from an authoritative, objective standpoint unless you've actually done your research and you've at least sampled it. Like I don't need to sample. I believe I read the first chapter of the first book. I think that was just Twilight.
Yeah, Twilight was the first book.
Yeah, and I knew enough right then that I wanted to put it down.
Right. See, I'm gonna do a little bit more bashing, as it were, but the book 50 Shades of Grey.
Let's not even go there. I don't want to discuss that. I don't want to discuss it.
Anything but the summary from that book and maybe a few pages that I've seen
I read a paragraph, and that was all I needed.
Exactly.
But
there are some instances where you don't really have to do a lot of research to say, this is shit.
But
however,
the fact is, you still need to do some baseline research.
Exactly. And the people at Fox don't do the necessary research to give an educated, unbiased opinion.
They might on certain things. You can't say that wholesale, but in this particular instance, you can say 100% they did not do their proper research.
They admitted to it.
Yes.
They blatantly admitted to it after the fact, which prompted BioWare to actually include a little jesting poke at this woman on the PC version of the game. In Bringing Down the Sky, if you actually look through some of the computers, it'll actually bring up a paraphrased quote by this woman. And it's absolutely hilarious.
Hold on, our screen's gone dark again, which means we do not have current access to our notes. Hello. Give me back my screen, thank you. Oh dear, I love it when that happens. Anyway.
Turn off sleep mode.
Well, shit. Anyway, moving on. There were a couple of other instances where media just kind of ran off with the whole idea with video games, and there's also been the idea of video games being blamed for stuff that just really shouldn't be blamed for. Right. Now, this is relatively recent. The guy's name was Breivik?
Yes, Breivik.
Breivik? I don't know.
The Norwegian extremist.
Yes, this guy, I guess, ran across the country and bombed different targets, killed roughly 77 people,
and 200-something people got injured by the bombings and gunfire.
But yes, he basically made IEDs, improvised explosive devices, set them off, killed a bunch of people, and hurt many, many others.
Right.
Now,
Norway sentenced him to 21 years.
Which is the maximum penalty in that country.
Now, keep in mind, there are extenuating laws related to this. We're not going to get into them. It's recommended that you read the articles for yourself, because we're not exactly...
Well, I can actually summarize it. Basically, if somebody's still deemed a danger to society after that 21 span, they will be kept in the Norwegian prisons.
Right.
They're basically allowed to have their case reviewed after that 21-year period, and the government can choose to keep them in jail, which, with this guy, they likely will.
Correct.
So this guy's probably never going to see the light of day again. We'll never have to worry about him.
Right. But unfortunately, a lot of people tend to forget that part of the law.
So people just kind of bash Norway. But we're moving off the topic. Basically, what ended up happening with this guy is that he claimed that he spent 12 years as a sort of sabbatical. I use that word lightly.
12 years or 12 months?
12 months, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think it was 12 months.
Sorry, but I hate to use the word sabbatical in this format because that's not really what a sabbatical is.
No, but that was exactly the words that he used.
Yeah, that's the words he used. He spent 12 months playing World of Warcraft and Call of Duty to desensitize himself towards the violence that he was experiencing.
Or going to release, I think is what it was.
And the media kind of ran with it.
Again.
Now, I don't know about you, but I have been playing video games since I was 3. I find the idea, and not that I have a problem with guns, it's just I find the idea of pointing a gun at somebody and shooting them abhorrent. I would never do it unless I had to defend myself or defend somebody else. And even then, I would probably still feel kind of bad about it.
Right.
I don't know. I've never been in that situation. I can't empirically say whether or not how I'd handle myself. All I know is that I would not just go around shooting people because I've been playing video games for so long. I understand the difference between right and wrong. So a 12-year period where this guy played... First of all,
12 months.
12 month. First of all, playing World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is a high fantasy game. It does not teach you how to build improvised explosive devices. It does not desensitize you to killing real people. You are fighting orcs, you are fighting goblins, you are fighting all sorts of
fantasy creatures.
It's... I can't even understand the leap of logic that this would somehow even possibly desensitize you towards violent activities when this is a very, very high fantasy game. The violence is not remotely realistic. Now, you could possibly make an argument for Call of Duty, but again,
Call of Duty
science does not back that viewpoint.
Yes, there is no concrete evidence to show that if you play Call of Duty or any of the other military-related first-person shooters, that you can learn how to shoot a gun, you can learn how to fly a plane, you can learn how to build a bomb based off of playing these games.
You literally
it's impossible.
Can't. It doesn't teach you how to do any of these sorts of things.
I'm going to bring up Penn and Teller again when they did their episode on video games. They had a 12-year-old boy shoot a gun.
And that kid wound up bawling afterward.
He played games like Call of Duty, Battlefield 3, all of these military-related games. He liked playing them. But he knew the difference between reality and fantasy. It wasn't even that.
It's when that kid shot that gun, it scared the crap out of him, and he ended up crying.
His mother had to hold him for like an hour and a half
Down
afterwards.
a level, you're getting a little excited.
I'm sorry, this issue just
You're going to wake up the neighbors
so much.
But the point remains, these games do not teach you this kind of behavior. It does not teach you how to build an IED. That's something, and not to mention, the science doesn't back any of this up. Psychologists do not give a correlation between violent behavior and video games.
Some psychologists will claim one thing and some psychologists will claim another. Unfortunately,
the correlation really indicates that violent people are drawn to violent media rather than violent media causing violent people.
Right, but media ignores that. Media ignores that fact because they see the correlation of a violent person, violent game. It must be the violent game is what's causing it.
While they're always ignoring violent game, peaceful people. They always seem to ignore that the vast majority of people that consume this media are generally peaceful people. Granted, there are some people who are very aggressive online while playing these games, but that's where they get their stress out.
Video games is a like marketed stress reliever.
I've even known to be an asshole every once in a while playing a game. I'll yell at people who are doing stupid stuff, especially on games like League of Legends and stuff like that. I'll get mad at people. I've gotten mad at one or two people on Air Buccaneers when they don't listen to me.
I've never had really any of those experiences, but I end up I yell at my computer.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm trying to do something and I can't get it done. I've done it for Guild Wars, trying to get to the damn Vista points. It's like, how the fuck do you get to this place? But, and then when I finally figure it out, it's like, oh, I feel stupid for doing this.
But after you have that explosion online in a completely safe environment, you feel better. And you don't end up unleashing on the daily stresses in your life. You know, I think if how the word is gone postal because of that postman who shot up his workplace.
Office, yeah.
I guarantee if that guy played a bunch of video games, he probably never would have done that. But that's kind of a horrible joke to make because people ended up dying because of that. But still, you get my point.
Yeah. Very much so.
It's a very good stress reliever, and I think if people played more video games, we'd probably be less apt to seeing situations like this. And we do have statistics to prove that.
We would probably have
Let me bring them up right here. Hold on. Oh, sorry, I don't have the statistics up. What? Violent crime in adolescence is at a
30% low.
Yes, it's down by 30% and it's at an all-time low for right now.
Yeah, if you give me a couple
I forget
seconds.
the exact statistic, but it's 30% lower than it ever has been in this country.
Yes.
While the rate of consumption of video game media over the years has just gone up and up and up. I believe what it is... where is it? Yes, about 38% of homes in the United States of America have a gaming console. It might vary in other countries. I do not have the actual rates for that, but where's the experience? I don't have a lot of numbers here. 63% of parents believe that gaming is a positive part of their kids' lives. Well, conversely, 66% of where am I going here? Majority of the press exploits the parents who hate video games, whereas literally 63% of parents who have children that play video games view it positively. You never hear about that because, again...
Media tends to focus on the negative side of
the parents that don't like video games.
Because the parents that don't like certain things are going to be the ones that make the biggest stink.
Yes. Where is it? Moving right along. So, there is all that.
There's a lot of correlated data that disproves a lot of...
But yeah, as far as that guy goes... You do not get desensitized by these kinds of games.
He had a problem before he even touched a game.
This guy was psychotic. This guy had a plan before he even touched any video games. He was a killer. I don't know if he was born a killer or if he was raised in an environment that made him a killer. But video games were not the catalyst for this. He already wanted to do this, and he planned on using video games as the training, which I really do not even think they aided him whatsoever in that aspect.
No, not at all.
Like, the closest thing that you could get to a murder simulator when it comes to those games is this one particular level in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. It's a level called No Russian, where basically you go in as a American spy joining a Russian terrorist group, and you basically kill a bunch of people in a Russian airport. Mm-hmm. That was a very powerful moment. It was used in a specific kind of way, and it was kind of used to describe the story. It wasn't just for the hell of it. Right. I remember that level quite a bit, and it was a very powerful moment in gaming. But that's the most, like, murder simulator fashion in that game that I could point to, and even then I still don't think it desensitized me to murdering people, because as I mentioned before, I'm not gonna take a gun and just shoot people I don't like. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah. That kind of thing only happens if you've got a predisposition to violence.
Yes. I'm not a violent person. I can be an angry person, but I'm not a violent person. The worst I've ever done is damage a wall.
Yeah. I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's scary, but...
But those days are kind of over. I've moved on with my anger issues. I have not damaged anything in the past couple of years. But moving right along, the last article that we really have about sensationalism going away with video games and painting it in a bad light was...
From the Christian Post.
Yes.
It is a Christian...
It's a conservative. Well, let's just
newspaper.
say that it's conservative.
Right.
We don't want to provoke a religious issue, but it is a very conservative media source. And these guys claim the child. Well, this did actually happen.
It did happen. It was in the Middle East.
Yes,
I forget exactly what country, but it was a 4-year-old.
I think it might have been Saudi Arabia.
Yes, you're right. It was a 4-year-old child that was supposedly killed his father for not coming home with a PlayStation.
Yes. This boy freaked out, grabbed a loaded gun, 4-year-old, mind you. So I don't even know really how he knew how a gun worked, which is its own issue. Mm-hmm. I don't know how he knew that a gun could hurt somebody. I don't understand how he thought a gun could teach somebody a lesson, which are its own problems. It's kind of like an example of bad parenting. I also don't know why there was a loaded gun just lying around within reach of a 4-year-old.
Well, from what I read, it was part of the father's job. I guess he might have been some sort of police officer, and he was tired, came home from work, and just kind of set his equipment down.
Still.
It was very careless, I'm not going to lie, but I think I can kind of see it.
If you set a gun in an area that a 4-year-old can access it, you are doing something wrong. I do not care the situations revolving around it. That is like rule. If it's not rule 1, it's at least rule 2 of gun safety. Come off it.
Right. Well, I completely understand what
Anyway, this child ended up picking the gun up and shot his father in the head. And his father, I don't know if he died immediately or if he died later in the hospital, but he did pass away as a result of the actions. Now, the Christian Post went on and blamed the fact that this child flipped out over the fact that he didn't get a new video game system.
Or he didn't get a video game system at all. From my understanding, the child never had a video game system to begin with.
Yeah, so this kid didn't necessarily even have access to video games before this instance. He knew people that played video games, so he really wanted one.
Right. Whereas, the Christian Post claimed that violent video games were to be blamed for the desensitization of the child.
When the child most likely has never even played a violent video game. He most likely hasn't even played a video game.
Right. They even had, I really wanted to kind of slap somebody for this, but they had Dr. Phil make a quote.
Well, Dr. Phil, for those who aren't familiar with American media, Dr. Phil is a well-known psychologist who has his own TV show. Yeah. And he has been quoted as saying, if you shoot somebody in one of these games, you don't go to jail. You do not get penalized in some way. You get extra points. Children use more aggressive language, they do use more aggressive images, and they have less ability to control their anger, and they externalize things in violent ways. This is absolutely not good. Now, some people might claim that we're misquoting him, but we're really not. There is no way to take that out of context.
No, because that is a direct copy-paste from the article, so we're not misquoting it.
It's not even so much that. If you listen to Dr. Phil's rant on it, there is very little way that you could somehow take that out of context. Yeah. He's bashing video games. Well, when in reality you are penalized quite often in a lot of video games for shooting people when you shouldn't.
Right.
I mean, even if in Grand Theft Auto, when you go around haplessly killing people, the police come after you, they throw your ass in jail, you get penalized in heavy ways.
Right.
Or in, say, Skyrim, where if you go around and murder civilians, stop right there, criminal scum! I mean, that's got its own meme status by now. But anyway.
However, what really makes you think about this is the child's grandfather came out and spoke against the articles that were circulating on the internet that the child had gone after his father out of anger.
Children don't even understand the difference between right and wrong at that age. It's a 4-year-old child. They do not understand the concept of death. They do not understand the concept of something going away forever. They don't understand really the concept of hurting things. Children are... you've probably heard this quote before. Children are cruel, and it's not because they are actively trying to be cruel. It's simply because they do not understand. Children will sometimes torture animals because they don't understand that they're possibly causing it harm. It literally just not occurs to them.
Their brain hasn't developed enough to make the correlation that I'm hitting something, it's crying, I'm hurting it.
Yes, the child does not understand that. And the child did not know that if he took a gun and shot his father, that his father would end up dying.
Now let me extrapolate a little bit about this. The child pulled the trigger by mistake. According to the grandfather, the boy's father often brought plastic toy guns home for his son to play with. And he did this regularly. The child
probably
had
mistook
like a ton of
the
Nerf
real gun for his toy gun.
Right. So when Dad came home, hard day at work, he wanted to relax, he probably wasn't thinking, I'm tired, he set the gun down in plain sight.
Again, which I have my own problems with, but...
Which was a stupid thing to do. He left the gun out in the open, and the boy grabbed it thinking it was a toy.
Yeah,
he pulled the trigger, and he didn't know what was going to happen.
So according to the grandfather, this wasn't even related to the whole PlayStation idea. For all we know, that could have been completely made up.
Right. Well, they even had Abdul Al-Marabi, who's a psychologist that actually investigated part of this case. He says that a child of the boy's age has no concept of the events, of the consequences of his actions. A child only understands one concept: jealousy. And that's the jealousy of other children his age, not adults.
Yes. Now,
come off it.
When asked by his grandfather where his father was, the boy responded, "He's at the hospital, but he's coming home tomorrow, and he'll bring a toy home because he loves me." Now, that's heartbreaking on its own, but we understand that this child literally has no understanding about the consequences of his actions.
He has no concept of death.
This was not a result of a child playing video games. This was a large mistake. The father shouldn't have left his gun out. If anything, this would be a good promotion about gun safety laws. Now, I don't necessarily support gun safety laws, but I understand why this would be a larger promotion for anti-gun laws than it would be for anti-game laws, because guns, unfortunately, are extremely dangerous tools, and if they are misused, people will die.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no situation where a 4-year-old should have an access to a weapon like that. Plain and simple.
Right. No, this article brings to mind another thing that you pointed this one out to me. Little girl walks up to a soldier who was being deployed.
Oh, yes. This one.
This story broke my heart. The little girl walked up to this soldier who was about to be deployed and asked him...
No, this soldier was coming back. He was on leave. He was on leave. He left. He just flew in back from Afghanistan. And this little girl walked up to the soldier and asked the soldier if he was going back. And the soldier replied, "Well, yes, I am." Well, the little girl looked up at the soldier and said, "Could you please tell my daddy that I love him, because Mommy says that he will not be coming back and he's going to stay over there to help protect us." Now, that actually, even repeating this now, kind of makes my eyes well up a little bit.
I want to start crying because this story breaks my heart in so many ways.
I do have relatives in the military. I am glad that every single day that they are safe, they are fine. I don't think any of them are actively deployed anymore. I think they are all back except for I have to call him my ex-step-uncle, got redeployed back, or he is going to be redeployed back, but I don't talk to him all that much, so I don't have much information on him anymore. But all my family, majority of my members of my family have been in the military before.
At some point. Your uncle's
been in the Navy. My grandfather worked for the Air Force, so I understand the worry and the fear and all that sort of stuff. But basically, what I really should be pointing out here is children do not have a concept of what can happen to people. And
this is probably one of the biggest reasons why if the child that age has a pet that dies, fish had to be flushed down the toilet, mom and dad will make up an excuse that, oh, Fishy's doing a sewer system.
Fishy's going to the moon. Puppy is off working for NASA. We've heard all the excuses.
Right, but it's simply because the child has no understanding of the situation. But they won't be able to link the points. But
we're going a little bit off topic now. Let's refocus once more. Mm-hmm. Now, not all media does go ahead and blame video games for everything. Now, I hate to be the one to point this out, but more liberal media sources like PBS and MSNBC,
even CBS,
all those sorts of more liberal newscasters paint video games in a far more favorable light. They're actually willing to look at the science, look at the research, and actually point out the positives that these video games do have effects on people.
They will make some occasional references to negative aspects. I know, I think it was CBS that had an article that began to paint video games in a positive light, but then they did come back and said that video games can be an addiction.
Well, that's a whole separate argument. Right. My personal take on the whole video game addiction aspect is that there is no such thing as video game addiction itself. There are people with addictive personalities. Once they find an activity that generates a lot of adrenaline to them, once they find something that
gives a lot of pleasure.
Yeah, once they find something that's very much rewarding to them, they feel like they're actually accomplishing something into it. They latch on to this particular activity and they do it over and over and over again. The thing about addiction is that it's very, very much it's a chemical thing. It's something that can be measured. It's a chemical thing. It's something that can be quantitatively detected and measured by a doctor in a lab. You can't do that with video game addiction. You just pretty much can't do it. But you can detect how the brain works, and you can see how like a gambler will react when he's getting rewards. It's basically, these people are not so much addicted to video games or gambling, or
it's kind of like a Pavlov's dog scenario.
Well, it's not even that. They're not so much addicted to, like I said, they're not addicted to really gambling. They're not actually addicted to video games. They're not really for the instance, like with the sports crowd or the adrenaline junkies who jump out of planes and stuff. They're not really addicted to those activities. What they're addicted to is the sensation of getting a reward. You know, the excitement that builds up in their chest, the accomplishment that they're feeling. Right. It's not... For instance, I guarantee if somebody who played video games all the time and had a video game addiction had ended up getting into gambling instead, or got into para jumping, they would be addicted, and again, addicted with air quotes, to those activities instead. It's not so much an actual addiction to those activities as it is the sensation of success.
Yes.
And that's kind of my point.
Right.
But moving along from there.
All right. There are examples of positive viewpoints on
we did already say
games.
That.
Right. But
specific examples, we should say.
For example, MSNBC shows that video games have positive effects on today's youth, that the playing of video games has been reported to increase problem-solving capabilities and careful risk-takings. These are things that are important in today's society, especially in the business
proper term
aspects.
For that would be risk-reward judgment. How much risk you're willing to take for whatever reward.
Right. And that's probably a big thing that happens when you're doing stocks and you're working on Wall Street, and that's definitely a very big risk-reward thing.
There are also some businesses nowadays that look into people's personal lives and whether or not they play video games, because cooperative online video games do promote a cooperative mindset, and it kind of does educate people in working in groups. And if you find people who play a lot of like big MMOs or even just kind of squad-based tactical, you know, you have to work together to get a goal type video games, those people generally score higher when it comes to working together in large groups. They know how to lead, they know how to follow a leader, they know how to take instructions, they know how to communicate, like you said.
Playing video games often develop stronger relationships in general. It's kind
of sad that people who spend a lot of time on the internet tend to develop stronger relationships than people who have
face-to-face meetings with people that they went to school with.
And that's pretty goddamn sad, in my opinion. Like,
it is a little bit sad.
Azilie and I, for instance, do have a very strong relationship, and part of that has to do with the fact that we've done a lot of online activities together. We haven't been able to see each other much in person. Well, at least earlier on in our relationship, we weren't allowed to hang around together as often as we would have liked. Azilie had, well, still kind of has, very conservative parents. Now it's one very conservative parent, one very, very liberal parent, but we're not going to get into that.
Yes, we're not going to get into that.
But you had very, very, very conservative upbringing.
Right. I had strict curfews. I wasn't allowed to participate in certain activities, and then
they broke your Disturbed CD. No, not Disturbed.
No, it wasn't
Metallica.
Disturbed. It was Metallica, and they also broke my Rob Zombie CD.
Yeah.
Because they didn't like the lyrics.
Dragula, in particular.
Yes, I was very...
I was there for that. They yelled at me because they thought it was my CD.
I was so upset that day. I'm like, I like the CD.
Understandably so.
But in any case, it wasn't until I started high school, my freshman year, my mother finally said, okay, I'm giving you a laptop because you need to start doing schoolwork. You need to start writing reports and
Well, that was around the
research.
time where your mother also went through a couple of changes and got a very different viewpoint
That
about
wasn't
the
until
world.
my junior year. That wasn't until my junior year. But she
still.
kind of started having these changes in her opinion, not all of them for the good.
But anyway,
in any case, I started doing...
experienced a lot of online interaction. We got to know each other really, really well throughout high school, through personal meetings and internet meetings, and, well, we've really never been closer. So, a mixture of that has gone
Definitely
together to tie together a really good relationship. We play video games together quite a lot. We bond
more so now than ever.
Yeah,
if it wasn't for you, I would never started playing video games.
But we bond elaborately through those activities.
Exactly.
And, I mean, we played through Portal 2 pretty much completely together, and yes, there were some frustrating moments where we went to
strangle each other with the cords. Yeah. It's like, you're doing it wrong. You're the one that's supposed to be going over here. I'm over here. Do your job. Yeah.
Shoot the portal when the box is going through, not before, not after.
I'm trying. I mean, the Left 4 Dead 2.
But those are extremely fun experiences. We have very fond memories over them, and they are activities that we bonded together over. And there are still people out there who have great misconceptions over this, and the media has not been helping.
Absolutely not. And what makes it worse is they're going after the people that will paint it in a deliberate negative light. They will not accept the viewpoints of people that have had the positive experiences. We've given you the statistics of it already. 63%?
60...
I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's, you'd have to reverse that number. It's 63% of parents believe that gaming is a positive part of their kids' lives. I don't feel like doing math right at the moment, but it would be roughly around...
47.
37.
Yes, I'm sorry, 37.
It would be around
My math isn't working today.
37% of parents whose kids game believe that it's a negative impact. So the media only seems to pay attention to that 37%.
And that, come on, that's a really, really small percentage compared to the number of people that play games. 56% of all gamers are male. 44% of all gamers are female. Come on. 38% of homes in the US...
Why did you throw out that statistic?
To show that there are a variance of gamers. A lot of people have the misconception that women don't game.
There's a wide variety of gamers. I'm just not sure why that was relevant. That's all I'm saying.
Oh.
Anyway,
it's like 38% of all homes in the U.S. and this is the U.S. alone.
Basically, what happened right there is that Azilie saw a number and decided to repeat it.
Shut up.
Ow. Please don't punch me in front of our viewers.
They can't see it. I can abuse you all I want.
Please don't. I'd also like to point out that 83% of children who do purchase video games do so with the consent and permission of their parents. So, obviously, a lot of children who consume this media do have the consent of their parents. Their parents do not mind that they are playing these video games.
And keep in mind, that's probably a statistic of just the children that ask permission from the parents to purchase the game.
Charlie horsed my bloody arm.
I'm sorry. That's not including the number of children that have to request their parents' permission to play that game when they're at home. I can vouch for the fact that when I started playing video games when I was younger, I had a PlayStation 1, and I actually had to have tokens provided to me by my parents to say, you have an hour's worth of gameplay. If you provide another token, you have 2 hours of gameplay. To earn tokens, you have to do chores. If you do not do chores, you get punished and you don't get tokens.
Granted, I kind of find that whole system to be a little bit of a ridiculous contrivance, but I understand why they did it.
Right. I mean, I can understand what they do.
Your parents grew up in the arcade years, so that kind of really made sense to them.
Well, it's not even that. It was more a manner of my parents being able to control what I did with my free time. I didn't do what I was supposed to do.
I still say it's somewhat of an arbitrary contrivance. They could have implemented it in a different way.
They probably could, but they decided
I'm not
to
saying that
tokens.
It's necessarily a bad idea. It's just unnecessary.
Odd, yeah. But it's like, I learned to game in moderation because of that, and that's not a bad thing to learn.
Yeah, everything in moderation is a good point to make there. There are certain ways that you should handle gaming as a parent, and there are other ways that you shouldn't. You should teach the idea of moderation, and I don't just mean for games. It should just be for everything. Let me tell you, it should be for everything. I am kind of shaking my gut as I point this out. Everything in moderation, folks. Just look down at your stomach.
Oh my God.
Trust me, I know you're all gamers. A lot of you probably have the same problem that I do. That isn't to say I'm significantly overweight, but I should probably see a gym a couple of times a week that I don't particularly do.
Moving on.
America. Oh, yeah. Anyway.
Oh, my God. I'm going to slap you after we finish this for that. I'm slapping you. Just
anyway.
Memo to self. Slap. Lyiat. Anyway. A final point to make on the positive side of media looking into video games. PBS, the public broadcasting station, they had a video series. It was like a 2-hour broadcast called The Video Game Revolution. This was done back in 2004, so I don't know how many of you were actually able to catch this. I think you can find it online, on YouTube, or whatever.
Keep in mind, the whole of this might not be so accurate anymore, because
it is done in 2004.
Yeah, it says here that there's a large gap between the public view of gaming and the hard facts. Well, that was very much true in 2004. It's a lot less true now, because there are a considerable more amount of people who are way more familiar with video games, and like I said before, there are many, many households now that have access to video games and actively promote that kind of behavior.
Right. But this was a public 2-hour broadcast that focused on the history of gaming from its conception to the present and the impact that the gaming industry had on people. And this included a couple of essays that you can actually find on the website. If you look up the Video Game Revolution PBS, you'll be able to find one specific essay called The 8 Myths That Were Debunked.
Now,
8 gaming myths that were debunked.
Myths.
I only...
Yeah, you say 8 myths, but in your notes here, you've only seemed to write down 4.
No, I only wanted to include 4 that were strictly relevant to the topic at hand.
Fair enough.
Those 4 are the availability of video games has led to the epidemic of youth violence.
Which we did already touch about. Youth violence is at an all-time low at the current moment.
Right.
Which, well, video games are completely on the rise, so while correlation is not causation,
right,
there is a strong correlation with the rise of video games in adolescence and the
decline of violence in youth today. Another scientific evidence links violent gameplay to youth aggression.
Which is flat out not
This has
true.
been disproved. Playing of violent video games or video games in general acts as a stress relief. You're not going...
While people might behave more aggressively while playing the game...
Right. We've covered this topic as well. We yell at our games, we yell at the people across the computer screen or across the console.
Just watch me play a puzzle game, which is probably why you won't see very many of them on this channel.
Remind me not to let you play Vessel.
One of these days, we will record one of the jumping puzzles in Guild Wars 2 full length, and we will throw it up on the channel for you guys to watch us swear our heads off and actually get very, very angry at the game.
Yeah.
And yes, that will be
Jumping
hilarious.
puzzles suck. Anyway, moving on. Another example would be, because games are used to train soldiers to kill, they have the same impact on the kids that play them.
Flat out untrue. And it's not even so much from the aspect that video games themselves are not really used to train soldiers. They are used... They're not even games. They're full combat simulators, yes,
and they're restricted to the military.
Aren't video games. What the soldiers are using are not video games. They are very much full simulations. And while there are some video games that are somewhat close to those simulations, they aren't anywhere near as realistic.
I think even the Mythbusters were able to recreate a game with 360-degree view.
That was not Mythbusters. I know what you're referring to.
I can't remember what it was then.
I know what you're referring to, and it was pretty cool, but that was still based off of Call of Duty. Now,
right, but
they got a Marine to come in and play that, and he felt that the experience was pretty realistic. He played the game with the full 360-degree view in a manner differently than he would play a normal video game, because it felt very realistic to him. But that's, again, simulation, not
right.
video
because
game.
Of what they did, they made it seem more like a real combat situation. The common household isn't going to have this 360-degree room setup with surround sound and lights flashing and strobing.
What significantly made that different is because there was a very much... penalty for that game. They had set up paintball. They had set up paintball guns in the different corners of the room, and when you got shot, you actually got shot. So that kind of changed a little bit of how you approach the game. It changed the
dynamic of it, and they did this.
But we're getting off topic.
Different times.
We're getting off topic. The actual focus here is that video games themselves are not really used to teach soldiers, because video games themselves, in order to remain fun, need some video game contrivances that cannot use full physics simulations, because it just wouldn't be fun.
Yeah.
I mean...
it would be too real, and it would offset people.
Well, in a video game, you run through a building, you gun down hundreds of people, because that's fun, that's epic, that's cool. In a real-life military situation, if you're a sniper, you have to sit in the same spot for 3 days for a chance of one shot. If you are like an active room clearer, the action is going to be, you clear the room, you kick the door down, you step in, you room breach. 3-4 people, you clear the room. Chances are you've probably just grenaded them out, and that's it.
Yeah.
You don't get into these massive firefights with 30 people gunning people down from either side. That's not how actual warfare works. Not in the modern day.
No.
So, real life... no, that's not how things work.
There's no way for a video game to prepare you for the realities of war.
Yeah.
There's no way for you to play a video game and say, okay, I'm ready to go out and shoot somebody.
Yes, because it's a very different mindset. No. Like I said, military does a lot more than just the simulation stuff, too. They do real-life combat situations. They do all sorts of stuff. So it's
they have a lot of psychologists to help the soldiers with the after effects.
Yeah, it's not just these simulations either. And again, I will reiterate, these things are simulations. They are not actually video games.
There is a quantifiable difference.
There might be video game-like, but they are not video games in and of themselves.
No, absolutely not.
The closest thing we have as for public consumption that would be to these games would be what's it called? Completely blanking on the name.
You're not thinking like laser tag, right?
No. It's DayZ's the mod of this game. I can't remember what it's called.
Okay, yes. I know what you're talking about. I can't remember that.
But basically, it's a game that's a very, very relatively realistic simulator for military operations.
Yep.
And I don't know whether or not I want to call that video game a video game, but it does still have some contrivances to make it gamey, to make it fun.
Right.
Finally, the last point that Azilie has up here is that video gameplay is desensitizing, which, again, we've gone over before. It's just not.
Absolutely not.
If you are willing to pick up a gun and shoot people, it's not because of a video game. It's because you had something wrong with you before you even picked up that video game.
Yeah.
The video game itself is not the catalyst.
If a game was desensitizing and you got attached to a character and that character died and you started crying, I'm pretty sure that quantifies the fact that you are not desensitized to that game. I'm sorry.
Not sure what you're talking about, but okay.
Emotions have a big play on a fair number of media. If you're desensitized to it, you're not going to become emotionally attached to a character, and you're not going to...
We're not so much talking about desensitization in general, we're just talking about desensitization towards violence. We're not talking about complete emotion.
Remains,
we're not talking about somebody turning into a complete sociopath just because of playing a game. We're just talking about a person who is willing to inflict pain on others.
Right, but again, it kind of brings to the point that if you're that willing to cause pain to another, you really don't have any moral judgment. You don't have any
honestly, what I think it comes down to is that these people lacked a moral compass before they picked up a controller.
Right,
and that's
they can't
the end all be all point.
They can't relate to the emotional quandaries of somebody
suffering.
Yes.
Yes. So again, these people had problems before they picked up a controller. The controller is not the reason that they had problems.
Blame the user, not the tool.
Yes.
That's the same reason that you have to give when it comes to guns. Like, the gun is a tool.
Yes, but this is a different topic.
Again, it still kind of brings that to reference.
We're not talking about gun rights here. It's a different topic.
It's still a little bit
the difference between the difference between a controller and a gun is that a gun is an actual dangerous tool. A controller, although you may make an argument with a Wiimote because those things are goddamn dangerous, but a controller is not capable of killing people.
No. Well, swing it around enough, you might be able to do some damage.
I don't think
stretching it.
A Wiimote might be dangerous, but I don't think it's actually going to kill somebody. It might kill your TV. There's plenty of evidence of that happening.
Yeah, that's why the lanyard was invented.
That doesn't help.
Nope.
But anyway.
Oh, Jesus.
The Kinect is also pretty dangerous, as people have found out. I've seen instances of people kicking their cat across the room. That's pretty hilarious. But again, I think we're off track at this point. We've also been talking for about an hour now, which an hour and 8 minutes now. So let's start wrapping up here.
Yeah.
Is there anything we're looking forward to this week? Well, the NDA on PlanetSide 2 has gone down, so I plan on making a video about that. I don't know when it'll come to you guys, but it will come to you. We do have the special super secret project we're working on, which is a special edition of the Sunday Sitdown, which looks really cool, really promising.
Yep. We're hoping to be able to release that next week, but if not, it might come a bit later.
Yes, it will happen.
Yes.
I can guarantee you 100% that it's going to happen. What time slot it happens in, I'm not sure, but it will happen.
Yeah. I can't think of anything else at the moment.
We may have a developer interview coming up with Ludocraft.
Yes.
Ollie, their marketing manager, is very interested in working something out. I might either be talking to him or I might be talking to somebody else. It all depends on where when their game goes from alpha to beta.
Right, and they're doing a lot of extensive work on getting that out there as soon as possible.
I did tell them I'm not really interested in revisiting the game until they go into their beta phase, because there just won't be much else for me to talk about.
Right.
I don't want to just reiterate all the points I already made.
Correct.
Which is why you really haven't seen me make another video about Slender or make another video about SCP. Though then again, I think SCP has updated since then, so I might make another video on SCP, which is good for you guys, because you guys get to see me wet my pants all over again. SCP-173. Yes, I've done quite a bit more research on SCP since then. So I do know quite a bit more about that.
I'm looking forward to see what kind of creatures that they introduced.
They've only added one, from my understanding, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it for today.
Is there any other games that we know that we're going to... Oh, the guys from Washing Machine Night got back... is it Washing Machine Night? Toaster Night? Something like that. They got back to me. They are willing to let me produce a video about their game, but they do not have review code of it yet. So I have been put on a list for that game, and when they do release review code for it, I will be covering it, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
The game looks kind of silly. There is another game that's currently out there that I would like to cover, but it's currently NDA'd, known as The Quest for Epic Loot. Go check that out right now.
That one looks absolutely amazing.
Yeah, go check that out right now. That game,
it's
an Ubisoft game. It's going to be free to play. I don't know exactly what I can say about it because, again, it is NDA'd, but just go.
This is just stuff based off of the
Just go to the website and take a look at it because it looks hilarious.
Oh my god.
Anything else? I wanted to get my hands on FTL, but I'm not sure if I can do that. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, but for now, this has been Lyiat.
And Azilie.
And we're signing off once more. Finally, I get to go to bed. Good night, everybody.